When you think of manga, the stories that usually come to your head right away are fantastical and unrealistic. After all, manga is mostly made up of fictitious stories. But of course, that isn't its entirety. It's a form of media used for autobiographics, retellings of past historical events like wars or natural tragedies. It is also now commonly used to create novel adaptations. It's a simple way that we as a collective species can show what we have thought or gone through, a simple way to show our history or our culture, a way to not be forgotten. And it's an efficient way too. I mean, sometimes people don't have the time to sit down and crack open a novel about World War II. But if there's a drawn adaptation that can get across the loss and the information regarding the war that you can learn in the span of 20 minutes to an hour, then isn't that just another great way to learn information? However, a quick cutaway to give thanks to today's sponsor, Tokyo Treat. Tokyo Treat is a monthly Japanese snack subscription box that's delivered right to your door. Their goal is for everyone around the world to experience Japan from their own homes. Each box has its own monthly theme, and this month's theme is Tokyo Snackcation. Each box also comes with its own booklet that contains information on Japanese history, as well as details on each snack inside, as well as any potential allergies. Each box has up to 20 limited edition, seasonal, and exclusive snacks, and they're not all just sweets. Each box also comes with a ramen as well as a drink, and I think I'm gonna try one of their drinks today. I'm going to be trying the ever so famous melon cream soda. Oh, so melony and refreshing, especially with how hot it is here. Oh my god! If you too would like to experience the deliciousness that is Tokyo Treat, then please check out the links in my description, and please use coupon code Sydsnap for $5 off your first Tokyo Treat box. Thank you again to Tokyo Treat, and now back to the video. Without a doubt, manga is an incredibly versatile form of media, and I'm sure all of us have thought that we've seen every form it could take. I mean, I know I did. That was until I came across a gut-wrenching, heart-rendering, goosebump-inducing manga that just made me stop in my tracks. A manga made for the same purpose as some of the other ones, to be remembered, but for a more darker and melancholic reason. This was the manga made in order to solve a murder. When something tragic happens, it's like opening a book and wanting to see through to the end what the resolve is. You want to know the motivation, what the reasonings were. But life doesn't work like that, not always. That's why in the early 2000s, a group of students and teachers came together to make a manga about an unsolved murder case regarding one of their classmates. This classmate's name was Daisaku Chiba, a 19-year-old who was killed publicly by an unknown assailant. It's a tough pill to swallow, knowing that someone out there took the life of a bright and young student, while the killer themselves gets to go about their lives so casually without any consequence, while the people who knew Chiba are suffering from their loss. I mean, it was in public, people saw the incident happen, but still no perp was identified. How much more gnawing must that feel, knowing that instead of no information, you have information to catch a killer, but still no one can be identified? How frustrating that must be. And it's because of that they all gathered together to make a manga about the incident in order to catch the perpetrator. Not only did they detail the information regarding the crime in their manga, but they also detailed all of the information of the killer. This was all done in hopes that somebody would recognize this guy, be it his actions or the way he talked, and come forward. The amount of focus to the testimony shown via their drawings of how the murderer looked, his actions, everything shows the passion and want to figure out who this guy is, and in order to solve the unsolved murder of Daisaku Chiba. Now, before talking about the manga that's about this case, I think we should talk a bit more about the person it's about, as well as the unfortunate tragedy that befell him. Daisaku Chiba was born in Sendai in 1987. According to his friends and family, he was a very bright and kind boy. Throughout his entire life, even as a child, he was known for having a talent for drawing, as he had an incredibly deep love for manga. He had a very good relationship with his family, but especially his mother, and it's because of that special relationship that he had with his mother, he came to the conclusion that his want and his passion in life was to be a mangaka, and when he hit it big, he would support his mother so she wouldn't have to work anymore. He had so much drive and want to be a mangaka, and that really isn't that hard to see while you're looking at his art. Looking at his art style, you can see that it had so much promise. It has striking lines and shading that you just can't look away from. I mean, mean, anyone with eyes could see that he had talent. His expressions drawn, his shading, anyone could tell that he had a bright future ahead of him in the world of manga. He wanted to be the best he could be. So a year after finishing high school, he decided to join Kyoto Seika University, a private university known for its esteemed manga programs, made for aspiring mangakas. Once he moved there and was all settled, he seemed to thrive. He made a bunch of friends, and in all of his classes, he seemed to make a really great impression on all of his professors. It seemed like his first year at university really was set to be a good one. Even his classmates said that he was a kind and gentle guy who would smile non-stop, and that he was the last person to attract any kind of trouble, which is what left sadly many confused as to the actions committed against him on January 15th, 2007. On the cold winter evening of January 15th, 2007, Daisaku Chiba was seen leaving the university and waving goodbye to his friends. He got on his bike and began traveling east to his friend's house, using the main road along the Aizen Electric Railway. Around 7:45 p.m., Daisaku was a few minutes away from the university and surrounded by rice paddies, as well as a few encroaching houses. It was a dark winter's evening. There wasn't much around, so there weren't many people out. While biking, Daisaku Chiba eventually came across another cyclist who was coming from the opposite direction. The other bicyclist began swearing at him, so they both stopped. And then seemingly out of nowhere, the other bicyclist took out a small single-edged knife and began to repeatedly stab Daisaku Chiba. Despite his resistances, Daisaku was stabbed over a dozen times throughout his body, including his chest and stomach, before it's believed that the man in the black sportswear fled from the scene. A passerby eventually found Daisaku Chiba, crawling along the main road and desperately clinging for life. It was reported that his last words were, "I don't even know who stabbed me," before eventually being taken to the hospital where he sadly passed away. Everyone was quickly notified of the murder, including his school, where the next day after it happened, they put a post on their board telling about the incident. Everyone in the school was incredibly shocked. I mean, not long before, he was just there. He was drawing with everybody, talking, being social, but no one was more shocked than his own mother, Junko. Junko, understandably, fell into incredibly deep depression and couldn't cope with the loss of her son. And it didn't help that as the years went by and thousands of pieces of information were given, there was no progress in the case. It seems that time was not on Daisaku Chiba's side because, yeah, it was dark. There weren't that many people around, and even if there were people directly there when it happened, there was very little lighting to see what was happening. It's also believed that the perpetrator must have known the area very well because not long after he stabbed Daisaku Chiba, he was able to escape seemingly without anybody noticing. And it's because of all of this that the head investigator openly admitted that from the beginning, this was going to be an incredibly hard case to solve. It really is hard to stomach. I mean, this kid was surrounded by many people who loved him, but still there are no answers. And it's because there were no answers given and seeing that no progress was being made, the university decided to come together and create something in order to help potentially create more progress. Something that they do best: create manga. It didn't take a lot to see that catching the killer was going to be an incredibly hard feat. More information needed to be out there to the general public. At the time, the only information given to the public was wanted posters of what the perpetrator looked like, but it wasn't very detailed, as well as written down some of the details of what he was like and what people kind of noticed during the incident. The people at the university knew that there needed to be more out there. 6 professors and multiple students came together to draw a manga about not only the information given to the public, but also detailed drawings of the incident as well as, most importantly, the killer. The manga they made begins with Daisaku's legendary smile as he waves goodbye to his friends at his university, about to mount his bike. It shows a detailed recounting of the area he biked past, even including the map of his route, just in case anyone may have seen anything along the way, be it Daisaku or even the perpetrator. The manga then, heartbreakingly, shows in detail the tragedy that happened. They draw the actual crime. And although it is hard, I believe it was a necessary thing in order to show, because oftentimes you hear details of crimes, but it's really kind of hard to picture. So seeing everything drawn and put in front of you, the characteristics of this person and the events that unfolded, you don't really have to sit there and think and ponder the details anymore. It's right in front of you. For example, the police said that the person is someone in their late 20s to early 30s, standing at roughly 175 centimeters tall. Now, like, I don't know about you, but seeing these drawn pictures and knowing that information, I could picture the person, but I probably can't picture them very well. But seeing it in action before you paints a more thorough picture. It also goes on to show potentially more details than what the public knew, like the characteristics of the murderer. Apparently, he was somebody who was rather peculiar and had very unhinged behavior. Like the perpetrator approaching Daisaku before he stabbed him, he was seen swaying back and forth and showed very erratic behavior. Apparently, from a distance, people could see that he was walking in a very uncanny and unorthodox way, all while shouting and swearing at Daisaku, calling him an idiot.
Aho! Bokeh! Aho! Bokeh! Aho! Okay.
When I hear the details like that, I can't easily picture what that person would look like. I would think that's just somebody drunk. But when I see it drawn in the manga, it clearly seems more of like characteristic of that person just naturally being themselves, at least to me. So instead of being told this details, if you can see it in front of you, you could easily remember if you saw somebody acting in such a strange way beforehand or even potentially throughout your life. The details of the manga make things so much easier to visualize that it's a kind of like a godsend, really. According to one of the male instructors who worked on the manga, he said, "Chiba-kun met us through manga. Wouldn't it give us some comfort if we could help arrest the killer with the power of manga?" After showing what they know of the incident, the students also decided that they should include heartwarming stories that they themselves have had with Chiba, just as a way to properly remember him. Each student talked about different stories that they had with Chiba, talking about how wonderful his smile was, how even just looking at him, you could feel a gentle aura surrounding him. Even the professors admitted that they couldn't forget Chiba. He was someone irreplaceable in their classrooms, even though they had over 200 students. There's a story in the manga that I felt pretty touched by, actually. The story begins with Daisaku one day during university being invited to join the manga drawing team by the manga team leader. The team was asked to draw a pamphlet that would be distributed in regards to preparation for natural disasters. Daisaku gave it his all, drawing deep into the night, trying to perfect his work for it. But the leader of the team would see his work and say his manga character's eyes lacked life. They didn't really feel emotion looking at it, and Daisaku needed to fix that. Daisaku, wanting badly to improve, even went to the Osaka Disaster Prevention Center just to get more material. The leader said Daisaku was passionate, and the leader was devastated when he heard of his murder. The leader put his heart into finishing the pamphlet, and once done, knew he had to take it to Daisaku's mother. Once at Daisaku's house, the leader gave the pamphlet to his mother, to which she asked him, "Do you want to see his sketchbook?" The leader was surprised, but graciously accepted. Upon opening the sketchbook, looking up at him were many sketches of eyes, all bright and full of life. Once the manga was completed, it was made into a pamphlet. They, alongside Junko, his mother, began to pass out the pamphlets in front of Eisen Electric Railway's Dei Machiyanagi station in Kyoto City, along with investigators. They would hand pocket tissues to anybody who walked by, and when opening the pocketed tissues, would see the manga pamphlet inside, detailing everything that they put their heart into creating. The manga was also posted fully online, alongside the information of the Kyoto Prefectural Police with their number and email. Even now, to this day, Daisaku's mother is still adamant and trying to find the killer and demand that they face justice. It is without a doubt that everyone in that area must know of the manga and the heart that went into creating it. However, the manga made by the university wasn't the only manga to be created regarding this incident. In fact, quite a few would be made, and they were all created by the mangaka Katsumasa Inokiya, a modern-day manga artist best known for his masterpiece, Hibi Rock, that became a live-action movie in 2014. He was someone who attended the same university as Daisaku, and he too was devastated when he heard of Daisaku's passing when he was in university. He was also one of the people who was seen helping out handing out flyers in front of the station, as well as asking any bystanders if they knew any information regarding the case. One day in 2015, he had a sudden thought. He was realizing that his memories of Daisaku were beginning to fade, and he was worried that the more time went on, the more those memories would just continue to disappear. So he decided to post online his very own manga of his memories with Daisaku. Now, hearing this information, you might think that he and Daisaku were like best friends, but in fact, they didn't really like each other. However, upon looking closer, it's kind of easy to see that the dislike was mostly from Katsumasa himself, and the dislike seems to stem from a rivalry that he felt towards Daisaku-san. He recounts that Daisaku's good personality wasn't really suited for somebody who wanted to draw manga. But even though he felt that, the two would often exchange notes on their works, with Daisaku-san often saying that Katsumasa's manga had a lot of energy. After Katsumasa grew older, he was able to recount how hard and passionate that he saw Daisaku work on his manga, and he truly believed that he had an abundance of talent and a lot of love for manga. Not long after posting that manga online, years later, he would keep posting more stories that he had of Daisaku-san in university and his perspective of it. He posted another one in 2019 as well as in 2023. And one of the hardest ones to read was one that he made saying what Daisaku would have been like if he was still here today. To quote Katsumasa, "I want to keep drawing manga until the culprit is arrested, so I don't forget my memories with Chiba-san and the incident. It's a beautiful gesture, and it's possible that it's because of all of these mangas that were created, that's why the case is still being persisted even to this day, 17 years later." However, by 2015, due to retirements and personnel changes, the investigation team that was put into finding the perpetrator behind Daisaku Chiba's murder were no longer present. However, with a new team, the investigation is still ongoing to this day. And even as early as January 17th, 2024, memorials are still being held at the site of the incident for Daisaku Chiba. Even now, it seems that people are still handing out the manga and flyers at the station, begging for anybody who's passing by to please come forward if they know any information. Some still hold out hope that justice will be served, including the Shimogomo police chief Kodi Kobuta, who says, even as recently as this past January, that they want to avenge the victim's regret and make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. It can be said that all these mangas created a sense of hope without a doubt. Because from an outsider's perspective, so much has gone into its creation. So many things were worked on to ensure that it created the most amount of detail regarding everything involved. It is something made with a lot of hope and love. But unfortunately, reality can be a lot colder than fiction. None of this changes the fact that the murderer is still at large. But if there's one silver lining I can say from doing the research of this video, it is that it is very obvious that during his short life, Daisaku Chiba was surrounded by people who deeply loved him. From a broader perspective, and looking into this manga, in fact combing over it hundreds of times while researching this video, you can sense the feeling of desperation, the want to find whoever did this to him, because they themselves probably find it hard to sleep at night knowing that he's still out there. The guy who did this to somebody that they cared for is still out there, with seemingly no consequences. It perfectly painted a picture of who Daisaku Chiba really was, as well as who the murderer really was, what he was like. And you know, after looking into this and doing all this research, I can say every day, I am amazed by people's creativity to use a piece of media in a non-traditional way. But in this one instance especially, I feel like this was probably one of the most genius moves you could have made. I can only hope that in reality the manga is helping in some way, be it if somebody's walking down the road while they're passing out flyers, they get it and they, you know, see this and think, I wonder if I was there that night, or if I know somebody who even is like this. Someone will come by and see this and think, I think it's about time I've come forward. All we can do is really hope and see what the future has in store for us. I know it's unlikely, as I, of course, have a more Western audience, but you never know who's going to see this. It never hurts to get more information out there just in case. In my description, I'll be including links to the Kyoto Prefectural Police's information, so just in case if you somehow do know something, please come forward. I'll also be including links to the manga itself so you too can see the impact Daisaku Chiba has had on everyone's lives. I can only hope that his family gains some form of closure in some way. Either way, thank you guys for watching this video, especially to the end. This took a lot of research to do, but I really feel passionate that and surprised. You know, I never knew that something could exist like this, and I just wanted everybody to know the information behind it. Either way, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!